to admit, mate. I'm inclined to disagree. I think that.
But yeah.
I think honestly, Charlie. I mean, we could talk. I really don't care if we talk about it on camera. People actually ask me about this all the time, about, especially now, about the ownership, about the club, and
It's unrecognisable.
honestly, I feel so silly for how optimistic I was.
No, but you have to be
I
optimistic.
don't think you were wrong
It's
to
not
be
wrong
optimistic.
to be optimistic, mate.
No, but it's not.
Because you don't want to go into something new with negative energy and negative mindset. Like, you know, what you want to do. Fucking hell. That's about as good as our performance last night, wasn't it?
Great
Fuck
stuff.
me.
You can pull it. I think you can pull it close.
There we go. Right, we're back in the game.
Is the camera working?
Yeah, we're on, mate. We're on. Yeah, no, it's not wrong to be optimistic about heading into something new. Why would you head into something new with like negative energy and negative mindset? Like, it was always going to be different. Roman was a completely unique setup and unique scenario in football. And so to be optimistic about something new is not a ridiculous point of view to have. But admittedly, when like evidence and facts change, then your opinion can also change. That's absolutely fine. And so I went into this feeling optimistic, feeling excited about what might happen.
You're talking about obviously the takeover.
Yeah. Excited about what might happen. Obviously, like let's be honest though, even if that UK government thing hadn't have happened, Roman wasn't going to be here forever. At some point there was going to be a change. Obviously, the change was fast tracked and whatnot, and that's not ideal. But it's not ridiculous to go in with an open mind and sort of try and be positive about things. It's a complete waste of time going into it being negative, or it's all going to be shit, it's this, it's that, it's this, or whatever. But ultimately, like, a lot of things have changed now. You can see what the intentions are. You can see through everything that they're doing. Players aren't being signed to benefit the football team, they're being signed to benefit the balance sheet. There's a mentality seeping through from top to bottom of complete and utter mediocrity. We're going out of domestic cups with a whimper, and no one really cares about it. There's no leadership, no spine, there's no desire, no fight, no passion, and no one cares.
I agree, and I think the reason, as much as I dislike the model, how we're running things, I still put more blame on the sporting directors than the owners, because
Who hired them?
I know I agree. That I agree, but I'm saying at this current moment, and them not being sacked is another fault. But the reason I say that is because they have this model, right? They want to do this 19 to 23 or whatever it was model. You can do that and still go and buy the best in class. You can buy your Vinnies, Mbappes, your Miles, Kubasis, etc. The fact that we're doing this model and then buying the likes of Kellyman, no disrespect to the players I'm going to mention, but Kellyman, Amugu, Anselmino, Carney's, like, these guys are not best in class. Like, if you want to do this model, that's fine. I disagree with it, but there's ways you can make it work. We're buying players that aren't best in class of that age group.
And this is the thing for me, right? You look over football in history in general, right? When has any team ever won anything major with this approach? So why have these guys come in and thought that they could be the exception to the rule, exception to like time, essentially? Because every winning football team has got a blend of youth and experience. It's got a blend of exciting young players with winners and leaders and experienced heads in there. Why have these guys come in and thought that they could be the exception to the rule and win with a bunch of guys that have won nothing, they've got no experience, and you employ a coach who's also got no experience as well? You employ sporting directors who have got zero experience at building a squad at the top level. You've got an ownership group who've got zero experience in football. You've got virtually zero experience in sport. Out of that consortium, Todd Bowley's the only one that's got any sort of knowledge of being part of a sports team. He's a minor shareholder in Chelsea. So you put all these things together, are we really surprised that we are where we are right now?
I wanted to, on the Todd Bowley thing, I think that's a good point, because this isn't an owners plural thing. This is Eghbali and Clearlake. Bowley's approach we saw in the summer when he came. It was Ronaldo, Neymar, it was names. It was elder guys with name value. They might not have been great or past it or whatever, but it was name brands to help with other things like shirt sales and all that. When it changed was when Clearlake and Eghbali got more hands-on with everything. That's when it changed.
Essentially, Bowley stepped down.
Yes,
and
that's when the model changed. We got the sporting director. By the way, as well, sorry, sporting directors plural is nonsense. Like I realised this. I didn't realise this when I was talking to someone last night about this. I don't think there's a single club in world football that does this. Like everyone talks about Americans and use that nonsense. Even clubs in MLS don't do this. It's one sporting director or chief soccer officer or chief football officer,
and also
GM, whatever.
You're spot on. And by having two, right, no one takes any accountability. There's no responsibility. No one takes any accountability. And every time they just pat themselves on the back. These lot would pat themselves on the back if they got us relegated. You know, I'm tired of the BS. But on the Bowley thing, right, Scott's right. With that transfer window, right? Okay, the first one when he come in and he was acting as interim sporting director. Okay, a lot of them signings didn't work out, but the plan behind that window and the type of players that were targeted, the age, the experience, what they've done in the game, that was absolutely the right approach. Because you look at it, right? Okay, Aubameyang was purely Tuchel, forget that. But looking at signing players like Sterling, I know he was shit for us, but in theory, you know, you look at what he's done.
He's an experienced, proven player.
So Sterling, you look at Koulibaly coming in, an experienced centre half. Obviously, you signed Fofana, one of the best young centre backs around at the time. So you're combining the experience with bringing in exciting talents in. Okay, the execution might not have been great, and a lot of these didn't work out, but the plan and the thought behind it was absolutely right. Now, we're not targeting anyone who's done anything in football. You look at our one signing this month, right? And that we signed a replacement for Strasbourg. It's not even for us. He's going to be here for 3 months, Amugu. Maresca, in his own words, said, don't expect him to play that much. The guy's we're signing players to benefit Strasbourg, not us, when we've got gaping holes in the squad. Yeah. So I look at it, and last night, Brighton, and no disrespect to Brighton, right? Brighton had 3 strikers in their squad last night that all start for us. Every single one of them. João Pedro, Danny Welbeck, and Jorginho Rutter. They all start for us. How embarrassing is that? That we've invested £1.5 billion. You go to an FA Cup tie against Brighton, and the 3 strikers in their squad all start for us.
And we have nitpicked everything that we can from Brighton. And I was so embarrassed last night. And after the game, during the game, I had people. There was a bloke in front of me, slightly older fan, and we're going on. He's moaning, I'm moaning, and he says, I'm sorry, mate. Sorry to be so negative. No, it's like, thank you. At least I'm not being deluded here. You're seeing the same things that I am. Also, I will just say as well, you probably haven't seen my fan cam. I'm Maresca out. I'm done. You can't start Robert Sanchez. You cannot start Robert Sanchez and be taken seriously. I said it at City. If you start Robert Sanchez, you've got to go. He's thrown it away, irrespective of anything else that he could have done. Robert Sanchez is going to be the catalyst for this manager's failure, and that is the long and the short.
Let me just say, right, the people that call for Maresca to go are feeding into the narrative that the club want you to believe, because the sporting directors are what people need to understand.
Charlie,
is, right?
I don't like any of them. I don't like Maresca. Fine. I don't like Sanchez. I don't like the sporting directors. But if you're not a big fan of the owners either.
Get rid of,
they're all just.
There's no point getting rid of the manager unless the 2 above him go as well, because you just then have the same cycle again and again. If people get what they want and the manager goes right, this time next year,
you say it like that's not the solution to get rid of Maresca. I'm fully aware that we've got to get rid of the sporting directors as well. Maresca is not actually a bad coach. He just gets the simplest things wrong. For me, the style of play is actually not that bad. I think that we can work with it. But when you start Sanchez, you are telling me that you're just stupid.
Sanchez wasn't why we lost last night.
No, but that's irrespective. He could have been. He could have been. And then what's going to happen in 2 weeks when Sanchez starts and we drop points? What's going to happen then? Why are we deviating from... irrespective of the fact that Sanchez... I know he wasn't the catalyst for our problems, but he was the player. I said, if Sanchez starts, we lose. If Jorgensen starts, we win. For me, it's just a mentality thing. You are going into that game knowing that you're going to have a problem.
Mate, Jorgensen starting is not going to make Nkunku look anything less than a French Statue of Liberty.
But who's made Nkunku worse?
No, but
who's made Gusto worse?
Nkunku is just bad. Like, for this team, he's not a bad player, but for this team, he's bad.
It's true. No, but even I look at the players who Maresca. A lot of the players that people criticise Poch, and fair enough, he's gone. I'm not, but I'm just saying, you look at a lot of the players we've had in this team that improved significantly as the season went on last year, and they are getting worse this year.
And we have
Maresca.
plenty of players that look better this season under Maresca than they did under Poch.
But he has better players to work with in the first place.
Chalobah's better this season.
We didn't have Sancho. We didn't have Neto.
In the time
but he's a better player.
Sure,
by
but
the way,
he's not done anything.
hang on. Madueke's better. Chalobah's better. Caicedo's better. Cucurella's better. I'd argue Jackson is better, at least what we saw him in the start of the season.
Chalobah was the reason we conceded the first goal.
No, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
There's a massive gap between him and Tosin.
He should have made marking his man.
Sure, but what about
Tosin was in front of his man.
What about Tosin, who couldn't clear the ball for the second goal? Dog shit.
To be fair, I actually thought the second goal was a handball, but I watched the replay. It looked
No,
like
but,
it touched his shot.
but irrelevant.
Yeah.
But there's two or three ample opportunities to clear the ball. Tosin, dog shit. Dewsbury Hall was dog shit as well. Could have cleared it. There were two or three
That's
occasions.
on the sporting directors. I'm with you there.
But this is my point, right? When people blame the manager, I'm not saying the manager's blameless, but a manager is not the biggest issue here. Look at the way this squad has been put together, right? And tell me how any other manager does any better with the players that we've got right now. You have got 0 strikers. You actively made a decision to make yourself worse in the January transfer window than you started with. I don't really like Joao Felix that much. If you're going to let him go, bring someone else in. Why has no one else come in? So you look at the options now, right? And people criticise Mudryk. I tell you what, Mudryk would be making a difference in this team right now.
Absolutely.
We're now rotating Jadon Sancho and Tyreek George on the left-hand side. That's not good enough. Tyreek George could be an exciting young player. The guy's barely played any football for this football club, and you're expecting him to come on with 15, 20 minutes left to make an impact in a game that we're chasing. People criticise Mudryk, but Mudryk's actually improving this season. And like Maresca said in his press conference after the game, right? I didn't agree with a lot of his comments in it, but one thing he did say is sometimes you have to play games without players to realise how much you actually miss them. And people criticise Jackson. I tell you what, mate, I don't want to hear a single person ever say it again for Nkunku to start over Jackson. It is utter nonsense. And people talking about Mudryk, he's this, he's that. Mudryk would have been very useful for us, over the past few weeks. When you're looking at Neto was shit yesterday. Sancho was shit. Sancho did absolutely nothing. I like Jadon Sancho, by the way. The guy's got 2 goals and 2 goals, 4 assists or something.
But the thing with Sancho, and it's the thing that comes back, the way that this team is put together is terrible, because you can tell that those in charge, when I say that as in the sporting director, one building this team, did not do their research. Our 2 wingers that start every week pretty much, their best periods of their career came when they were playing with a number 9 who was a box threat. Pedro with Neto with Jimenez and Sancho with Haaland. So what have we done? We've put them, as much as I like Jackson, he's not a box threat, because he's not really a natural number 9, or at least he didn't start that way. And then our backup is Hiu. I'm not even going to speak because he's 19. And then it's Nkunku, who's not a striker. Yeah. So we've given guys, especially Neto, who want to be creative and want to whip balls in the box and try and aim for someone. And we're aiming for Cucurella, who's 5'10" in our left back. The way this team... We played a system last night with a false 9, where the false 9 would drop out and no one would crash the box to replace the space. Yeah, how do we... And we have no one, because the box crasher in our team is Nkunku, who's been terrible this season. And as much as I dislike him as a player and think he doesn't fit the system, the one player in our team that could have done it in the summer if you wanted to play the system was Gallagher, and you sold him because he didn't fit the system. And I think he needed to go because he didn't fit the system. But he then played a system that could have worked. This is why I don't put it on Maresca, because what he's been given, the tools he's been given, is shit. It's terrible. You can't give him something like Nkunku up front and go, work with that. That's terrible.
Nkunku is not a number 9. By his own admission. And by the way, Nkunku's not a bad footballer.
Yeah.
But when you play him as a number 9, you might as well have 10 men on the pitch. And the problem with this is, right, he's not going to play as a number 10 because Cole Palmer plays as a 10, right? I understand that. But I get it, he had to play there last night because there was literally no one else that could have played there. But when you put a squad together, the way that we've put a squad together, you can see that the people in charge of doing this have never, ever put a squad together
I agree.
capable of doing anything in their entire lives. How can you invest the money we've invested, right? No top-class goalkeeper, no top-class centre-back. We need a number 6 still, no centre-forward. 4 positions, key spinal areas of the team, and they said, judge us after 4 windows. We're about 5 or 6 windows in now, and the squad is arguably worse than it's been in quite a while, and we're missing so many key areas. The recruitment has been awful. The squad is horribly misbalanced. You've got wingers that are afraid to shoot. Sancho just gets the ball, does a little bit of a little shimmy side to side, a couple of touches. I'll recycle it. Neto the same. Madueke the same. You get into the box, there's no one there. You sign wingers that put loads of crosses in. You've got no one to take advantage of it. There's no goals in midfield. No one arrives in midfield from the box. Enzo had a bit of a patch when he was doing that. That seems to have gone now. You spend over £250,000 on 2 midfield players. Not a single one of them is really a goal scorer or provides a goal scoring threat. You look at the way the team's been put together, and you have to ask serious questions about what on earth are we doing here?
You talk about we've got no backup currently for Palmer, and you're right. We've signed 15 midfielders since these guys have been here. 15.
Where are they all?
I was going to say, some of them are still at the club, some of them are on loan, some of them have been sold. Like 2 or 3 of them. We signed 15 midfielders. We've signed 2 strikers since these guys have been here. What? 2 strikers and 15 midfielders in a system where we play 3. That's nonsense. And the João Felix transfer, again, he's another player I didn't massively rate, but that loan has been made to look so much worse with the game last night. Because the one thing I will say about Felix, him and Palmer connected instantly. And Nkunku and Palmer have no chemistry. They have negative chemistry.
Zero chemistry.
There's nothing. Like, whether they're both in the 10, whether one's a false 9, whether one's on the wing, they have no chemistry together.
Maresca said yesterday, they said, they asked him about Felix. He said, we don't miss João Felix.
Did they actually say that?
No, we don't.
Of course we do.
No, we don't. No,
of course we do.
What I'd say is, I don't think we miss him, but the biggest mistake was I had no issue with him going. But you can't let players go.
We do miss him.
No, we don't. No,
we do.
Mate, he scored 1 Premier League goal.
What happens when Palmer gets injured? What happens when Caicedo gets injured?
I don't think we missed the player himself.
We don't miss the player. We miss an option.
Yeah. I think that's
he was the option.
Yes,
he was the option.
So
what me and Charlie are saying is, if we'd have replaced him, say we'd gone and got, I'm not even going to try and name him.
If we'd gone and got a number 9, right?
If we got a number 9 and we'd had Nkunku as the backup 10, I don't think we're not missing Felix, or we're not as annoyed. We let 2 number 10s go, and the day the window ended, our 2 number 9s got injured. A week later, our winger potentially gets injured in Neto, by the way. We haven't spoken about that. We let 2 or 3 attackers go in a window where we didn't need to and didn't replace them, and then a week later we have 3 injuries in attacking areas. That's poetic justice in my mind. But there are a few times in the world where real karma and poetry happens. That's poetic justice.
And when you do shit like that, right? People can say, it's unlucky for 2 players to get injured in the same game. Sure, it's unlucky, but when you take that risk and you don't strengthen the squad, you are always playing with fire in that situation, that there's a high chance that one of those 2 guys will get injured and you'll have no one to cover. So why take an unnecessary gamble? There's no need to. I'm not saying go out and spend loads and loads of money on players, but are you telling me in January there wasn't a single striker in world football that we could have got that would have made a difference? AC Milan went and signed Santiago Jimenez from Feyenoord, a very good centre forward, 23 years of age, okay, for about 30 million euros. Are you telling me that we couldn't have gone and bought him? Are you telling me that we couldn't have signed someone on loan? We couldn't have made a Demba Ba, Loic Remy type signing that we've made in the past? Are you telling me there's not a single person out there? It's complete and utter bullshit. And they want you to believe that, they've been laying groundwork for the summer and we're doing this and we're doing that. There's zero plan for now.
This isn't a footballing project.
The plan
is a hedge fund.
It's not a footballing project.
It's not.
It's an investment.
But we're being run exactly how a private equity firm would be run.
We are a private equity firm.
Like every signing.
That's what we are.
But why are people surprised?
Every signing that's been made, the first thought is, how much can I flip him for?
Exactly.
Every signing.
Say that again, sorry.
Every signing we are making, the first and number 1 thought that this thing had is, how much can I flip him for?
And you see it like when you're signing players in the summer, and then 6 months later they're available to leave, or two have left, and I'm just thinking, guys, where is the level of accountability that that it's seemingly okay to sign players in the summer on 6-7 year contracts, and then 6 months later they're out the door for whatever reasons, whether they want to leave or they're not good enough suddenly or whatever it is. How is that okay? Where's the accountability? And that comes from the top, okay? Because the sporting directors aren't going to sack themselves. That comes from Egbali, basically, because Bowley's not involved in footballing decisions. Bowley's not been involved for a long time. The last thing Bowley was involved in was the Nkunku transfer, and he's taken a back seat for quite a while. But because his name's used as the face of the consortium, everyone thinks it's him. Egbali is the guy, along with the sporting directors, where their energy should be directed at. And it's unacceptable to have a business where there are no consequences for dog shit stuff.
Feliciano, about a year into the takeover, or maybe it was just before as well, he was talking about Chelsea, and somebody asked him, this is in an American, something to do with investors.
They do these business conferences.
Yeah. But I don't think it was a massive one. But anyway, he said that, the results are okay, but it's all about driving revenue up. And essentially, he said from that moment, and fans have pointed out, that it has been spoken about. He said that, if we're able to increase the value, that is basically the priority. And even with the lack of success, Chelsea will still find a way to turn over more money each year.
Chelsea's worth more than they bought.
Based on the season ticket increases,
it's worth more than
based on the memberships, based on the real estate that they own, based on the real estate that they want to own in the future, because we might be moving to Earls Court. That real estate from Stamford Bridge, that is another asset that Blue Co will own. Everything is part of this big pie. I mean, how much did they invest? 2.5 billion.
What was quickly saying,
1.5 debt written off by Abramovich.
What I would quickly say on that, right, is that...
And now we're not spending any money. I don't understand.
I don't have an issue, right, at the end of the day, because whether fans like it or not, football clubs are businesses. Mm-hmm. Okay, I've got no issue with people making an investment and wanting to make a return on their investment. That is not a problem. It's how you do it. Yes, exactly. It's how you do it. Okay, and people that say, "Oh, these guys aren't interested in winning," I actually don't believe that. I don't subscribe into that train of thought at all. Because the quickest way...
Feliciano did say that, though, John. He's basically said already that winning is not a priority.
The quickest way to make money is by winning.
Him and Iqbali are the guys from Clear Lake. He's saying it. You're not hearing it from me. It's a quote.
But we're not making any money by... The way you make money is by winning. That's the quickest way to be success in football. To make money is by winning.
I think it's just Champions League. That is it.
Even that is better than nothing. I don't want to be Arsenal. That's not acceptable in the long run. But I'm saying right now,
I think that's what's going to
happen.
Like
this season, for example, if we finish Champions League, that's a positive.
It'd be a miracle.
That's a positive. Yeah. It would be a miracle. That's a positive. Long term, no. But I agree with Charlie. The thing is, like, most clubs in football are inherently lose money unless you're Real Madrid, Barcelona, United. Like, unless you're that level,
they're saddled with debt, like massive debt.
True, but the reason they make money is because of revenue. The stadium is massive, even though it's run down. The fans around the world, like the biggest clubs in the world, they make money. Most clubs lose money. So, as Charlie said, the easiest way to make money is to win or to qualify for the Champions League. Like this whole long term of like investment thing. Yeah, you can make money through that, but you're gonna have to wait years to potentially see an investment. The one way you can guarantee return on investment is winning. So that's what, I think they want to win. But I think, I've always said with these owners, they're just naive. Because they don't understand football, really. They just go about, the way they think we win is not how you win, but they don't know any other way. And the unfortunate thing we've got is, going back to the sporting directors, the guys they've hired that know football, don't know football.
Don't know.
Because one of them was never qualified to do this job in Winstanley. I still don't know what he does. And Stuart... the best he'd ever done, I think, was at Monaco when they finished like third. So again, he's never really experienced winning. So you're asking guys who've never experienced winning and never experienced anything in football to run the football side.
Even the financial aspect is disappointing. How are you going to flip João Felix for a profit?
I said this about the Cassidy thing on streams.
Even the stuff that we're meant to be good at, we're not good at.
I'm seeing people go, we made good book profit on Cassidy. We made like 2 million. Great.
People celebrating like, oh yeah, we got a 5 million loan fee. I was like, guys, I don't give a fuck about 5 million loan fee. Forget your loan fees. Get me some players that are going to make a difference right now. If I hear any more of this nonsense about, this guy's versatile players, Swiss Army knife players. No, I'm sick of that shit. Sign me some players that are specialists in their positions. I don't want to hear, this guy could play there, he can play there, he can do this and that. Get me some specialists. What is so difficult about signing players that play a specific position? Why are we always looking for, he can play across the front line, he can do box to box, he can play 6. He's a centre-back, but he can play full-back. Less of this bullshit. Sign me players who are actually specialists in their positions and can make a difference in their position. I don't want to be seeing, this guy could play as a 9, but he's not really a 9. Get me a fucking number 9. Get me an out-and-out midfielder. Get me a proper centre-back or whatever it is. I don't want to see these guys that can play left back, can play centre back, can do this, can do that. It's nonsense.
Because there's two issues with that. Number one, you have a Vega problem where sooner or later these Swiss Army knives players very rarely, unless they're at top level, play consistently in one position and nail down a position. Like we saw it with Vega. For him to nail down a position, he's had to go elsewhere because he won't play it here. Even when he comes back, he won't play it here. He'll probably be sold in the summer. That tends to happen when you're a Swiss Army knife type player. Unless you just happen to, unless you're a number 10 who can play on the wing sometimes, but you're primarily a number 10 all the time, then that sometimes works. But most of the time they don't work. What was the point I was going to make? I completely forgot the point I was going to make. That's really annoying. Oh yeah, I was going to ask you guys a question on the specialist thing. City for years have tried to win the Champions League. Who did they sign to get them over the line to win the Champions League? 9. There you go. Haaland. That's who they signed to win the treble and win the Champions League finally. Because they failed against us in the final, and they failed previously to get past the quarters or wherever it was. So they went and signed the best number 9, arguably in the world at the time, or one of the best.
Definitely. Yeah.
If we're in that position, we need someone to take us over the line to get top 4. What do? Sign a young 19...
We make the squad worse.
I say make the squad worse by getting rid of players and sign a 19-year-old who's played all of 9.5 games in his career.
And is not gonna play for, and is not gonna hardly play for us over the second half of the season. So, yeah, it's the specialist thing. It's just I don't understand how you can watch this team, right? And we're still 4th right now somehow. Maybe more due to the fact that other teams are just lacking consistency. But how can you look at this, right, and think we don't need a striker, we don't need this, we don't need that. There's just the obvious holes that were just ignored. I'm not saying it's easy to sign players in January. It's not impossible.
I think it is.
If you've got to pay a bit more money, then just do it, because you'll make that money back by qualifying for the Champions League. So why is it so hard to sign a specialist players? Like, the versatility thing's a good point. In theory, it's quite useful to have maybe 1 or 2 players who are versatile, right? But as Scott said, actually in the long run, it's detrimental because you never really lock down a position. You're constantly being moved around. And that's not helpful. That actually almost goes against you. You'd almost rather have someone who, right, this is my position or whatever, and I'm competing in that position with whoever. If you can play centre-back, left-back, right-back or whatever, it's actually a bit of a hindrance to your development as a player because you're constantly being played in different positions each week, and it's not conducive to actually developing as a footballer.
I'm not saying this as well to bash on him because we have talked about in this video so far, but one of the things we heard about when we signed Nkunku is he's versatile. He can play this position. He's played 3 different positions this season and has been terrible in all of them.
I put that down to the manager as well.
I just think he doesn't fit the system. But
I think that's true. I think maybe the system.
He couldn't be a worse fit for the system.
But I do think that under Poch, when we saw him, I know it was limited. That guy would have got 25 goals if he was fit for the whole year. He would. He was scoring every time he come on. He scored against Wolves. He scored against Liverpool. He
scored 3 Premier League goals.
He also played up front. He also played up front against Luton and was terrible.
Guys, come on. Let's not sit here and act like Nkunku's got better under Maresca.
No, he has. I'm not saying he's got better. I'm not saying he's got better, but I'm saying that Poch was still using him in ways at times, like when he played him up front as a target man.
The best thing Nkunku's been for us is in his 2 pre-seasons.
It's like saying Wesley Fofana's had a great season. Where is he?
He has had a good season.
That's how.
He starts. He's our best centre back. He's our best centre back when he's fit. Yeah, like you look at people criticise him, right? I tell you what. He's so much better than anyone else that's playing defence at the moment. Miles better. Mm-hmm.
The thing is, as well, is the reason he's so much better is because he's the one profile in this team that no one else has. He can, in terms of we play with the high line, he's the only one that can recover properly. The only one. He's the only one that can defend wide areas pretty much. Like, he can, Chalobah kind of can, and that's it. That's... Again, it comes down to recruitment. Like, how can he be the only profile of that centre-back we have in the whole team? That's why we played Disasi at right centre-back, because we had no one else, even though he's really essential centre-back in the system. Same with Badiashile, same with Colwell, same with Tosin. Look at,
like, when we obviously go to a back 3 in possession, and if Cucurella inverts right, I like Gusto. He's not having a good season. Malo Gusto cannot play right centre-back in a 3. So when you play Cucurella and invert him into midfield, he is the best out of our fullbacks at inverting into midfield. Definitely. By an absolute mile. But that means then when Gusto plays, you have to play Gusto as a right centre-back of a 3 in possession. Mm-hmm. he couldn't be further from being a right centre back. On that right side, the only one that can do that role is Reece James. And is it really fair to play Gusto as a right centre back? You know, not overlapping. Last season, right, Gusto was very, very good. That's because the fullback overlapped, and that really suited him. Now Gusto is barely overlapping. He barely gets forward, and defensively, you know, he's obviously, I was going to say he's regressed, but obviously compared to last season, he's not doing as well. I'm just not sure how much this system actually gets out of Gusto, gets out of James, for example. Like, it benefits Cucurella because Cucurella going forward, that's never really been his strongest point. And we don't push the fullback forward like a natural fullback overlapping. So when we play this system, right, the two players in James and Gusto, who their big strengths are going forward, getting balls into the box, etc., that's basically null and void this season because we do not overlap the fullback.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think Gusto was one of our best players last season, actually, for me. I loved watching Gusto.
He was very good. He's still only 21, by the way.
He's brilliant, and he was a leader in his own right. When we were playing poorly as a team, you had Palmer there, obviously, but Gusto was one of the others that I could look at and say, you know what, fair play to you. I really don't have a problem. Even if he, you know, sometimes people complained about his crossing and this and that. You're never going to be Reece James, but you couldn't have a better duo in the Premier League if you want a top right back and good backup in there as well. Gusto's certainly regressing under Maresca. He'll get sold. For me, I don't think that he's going to stay in this system. I don't think he's going to want to continue to play in a system where he doesn't thrive, where he's not prioritised, where he's constantly out of position. It wouldn't surprise me if he'd done something similar to Vega and just wanted to get out there and get minutes. And fair play to the man. And it's the same with a lot of the players that we have. If you can't get minutes, and if you're not even playing in your best position, why would you want to be here?
I would say, right.
And now we're reliant on players like Nkunku who don't want to be here, and they're the ones that have to lead us forward in this top four chart.
Can we really say that Vega, if Vega played centre back for us, is he any worse than anything else that's playing at centre back?
I think it would be worth keeping him around.
He played centre back in one game. I can't remember what game it was. He played centre back and was good.
He played centre back. I think away at Panathinaikos he played centre back. By the way, I'm not saying that Vega should be starting every week for us at centre back, right? But Vega at centre back, I'd probably say he's better than Tosin. Is there a massive difference between Vega and Tosin in terms of level of centre back?
I'll be honest, Tosin's not the centre back I'm looking at funny this season.
But Colwell hasn't been good either. Look, realistically, other than Fofana, which centre backs have been good this season for us? Forget Chalobah because he's only just come back. Tosin's not been great. Colwell's not been great.
I think Tosin's been all right. Tosin's been up and down.
I would say
Chalobah's been up and down.
But Chalobah's only just been it, so I'll discount him.
Outside of Disassi, I think every centre back has had good moments. I think Cole will start the season, had a good stretch where he was very good.
But alongside Fofana, that massively benefits him.
Fofana was the same. He started the season slower than Colwell, but then when Colwell dropped off a bit, he was still continuing to be good. I think Badiashile had a spell around when we played Leicester and a couple other games. Before he got injured, he was playing well. I think Tosin has been interesting. I think he's had a couple bad games. I think he's been quite steady. It's not been spectacular by no means, and I don't think he's a starter in this team long term.
He's a fourth choice centre back.
Yeah, but he's been solid. I will admit he has been solid.
He's been okay. Yeah.
Chalobah, I think, has been decent since he's come back, but the issue is no one can stay consistent, and for the fact that Fofana's our best centre back and is injury prone, and for me then our next best centre back is Chalobah, and we don't know if he's good enough to start for this club, tells you everything you need to know about where we are.
But a recruitment, a lot of these issues...
It stems from the same problem.
All comes from the recruitment and the way that the squad's been put together. I'm not saying that the manager's blameless. Can a manager get more out of these players? Sure, absolutely. Because you could see he was getting more out of them at the start of the season. And it's worrying now that he was getting a lot out of them at the start of the season, but this same group of players, he's now struggling to get anything out of them. But at the same time, a lot of our issues stem from recruitment. Because the way Maresca wants to play... We have not put a squad together that helps him in any way whatsoever.
His armour is totally limited, and I have to agree. I said last year Poch was working with bums in terms of the players. This year Maresca's working with bums upstairs. That's the difference for me. I mean, not that they obviously were the same last season, but we weren't as aware as we are now.
I think the difference is with Poch is the issues with there. It's just Poch made so many errors on his own merit that it just masked everything. He ended up being a wall for the sporting directors because he did so many stupid things, unnecessary things, the injuries, the tactical changes, everything, that it masked what was going on upstairs. Maresca has come in and done the complete opposite, at least to start the season, has done really well, has exceeded expectation in terms of being in second, has got the best out of some of these players at times, which we didn't see last season. That when things start to go wrong, you realise, oh, wait a second, there are serious issues upstairs that we, because of what Poch was doing in stupidness, we just didn't see. Or they weren't the focus at the time.
But this is what people need to realise, right, is that, as I said earlier, putting all this on the manager and calling for the manager to go, that's feeding into the narrative that the club want. They don't want the blame on the sporting directors. They want it. They want a scapegoat. And that's what I'm saying. If you get rid of the manager, you must get rid of all of them. Mm-hmm. If it's either none of them go or they all go, because getting rid of the manager does absolutely nothing. There's a recurring theme here, right? This is the second or third manager now under this ownership that has not been backed. Mm-hmm. Pochettino wasn't backed. Maresca's not been backed. You could even argue under Graham Potter, right? Yeah, we had that record-breaking January window.
He was not backed.
How many of those players did he?
By the way,
Charlie,
that January window, by the way,
he was backed against the wall because there were so many players coming in.
Exactly.
No, that January window, by the way, I've gone back and looked at it. That January window is overrated. Outside of Fernandes and Santos, who we yet to see and we only know is good because of Strasbourg, that window is terrible. We signed Jimmy J. Morgan, who's currently on loan at Gillingham. We signed Mudryk that window.
We signed Madueke that window.
We signed Madueke, who basically everyone hates.
We signed Badiashile that window.
Yeah, who's been terrible outside that 6 months. Like, that window, there's a common theme with January windows with these owners, with the owners and these directors. It's terrible. Even that, but we've had one good window out of 5 under these owners, and it's because we bought Caicedo and Lavia, basically. If we hadn't signed Caicedo and Lavia, that window would have been shit as well.
Yeah, that was the window we signed Caicedo, Lavia, Palmer.
Yeah.
But what I would say is, right, people praise them for Palmer, and rightly so, because he's done so well. But let's be clear here.
I don't even think it was Stewart and
no.
Didn't we only sign Palmer because we got an injury or someone got sold?
Who's the other bloke who used to be at City?
Joe Shields.
Joe Shields was the reason behind Cole Palmer and Lavia.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, right, Palmer, I don't say Palmer's like the worst thing that could have happened, because it absolutely isn't. It's the best thing, but it's the worst thing in terms of people backing these directors, because let's be real, Palmer's a good player, right? But they took a gamble on him. No one expected him to be this good. And basically what we're doing here is we're just taking an approach of let's just throw enough stuff at the wall and every so often something will stick. Palmer's stuck unbelievably, right? Caicedo, that's not really throwing shit at the wall, because you knew that he was a top player and was always going to contribute. Palmer, you knew the ability was there, but you were very much taking a gamble. And that one happened to pay off. But ultimately, you go through the recruitment that we've made under these directors, right? And they tell us to judge them on 4 windows or whatever. You go through the recruitment, it's diabolical. It is absolutely shocking.
These guys had the chance to sign John Duran. Forget what you thought of him at the time.
£40 million.
It was less than that. It was 30, wasn't it?
No, it was 40. It was 40 million for Duran last summer.
30.
Oh, okay. So, it would cost you 40 million for Duran. Instead of swapping him and Maatsen, who both cost about 40 million, which would have made sense, you decided to spend 19 million on Kellyman. He's
never going to kick a ball for us.
No,
never
who has since got injured in the youth team and has played all of like 3 games for no reason. You spent 19 million on him to then try and sell Gallagher to them, who didn't want to leave. So you couldn't then get Duran because Gallagher didn't want to leave. You then sold him to Atletico to get a striker who might have had a slight knee problem, whatever.
He passed his Porto medical, he was fine, it was bullshit.
To then pull out of that, to then sign a number 10 for 46 million to loan him out 6 months later.
But my point as well
Mick
is, right...
McCarthy would say, you've had about 5 or... Mick, you've had 5 or 6 terrible transfer windows. Surely it can't get any worse. It fucking can.
but you just look at it, right, and... Yeah, we should have got Duran,
and it will.
And we're talking about they didn't like his attitude, background checks, all this and all that. It's nonsense. Why are we incapable of just doing a normal transfer? Why has it always got to be? Can you take someone from us? Or if someone inquires, can we have someone from you? Why can we just not do a fucking normal transfer? It is so painful seeing us operate this way, where it's like, Juve want Vega. Let's try Douglas Luiz. Let's inquire for someone else. Let's do this. Let's do that. Why is it this constant player trading, right, very rarely has an upside for both sides. Generally speaking, player trading's got an upside for one team. And most of the time, the player trading that we've been doing has been a downside for us for the vast majority of what we've been doing. Like, how are you ever building something sustainable when every single window you are constantly changing 4 or 5 pieces of the squad every time without fail? That is not recycling. That's not improving the squad. That is just literally players in, players out. How are you doing anything sustainable like that? You're not.
If they would have just, like, we speak about the Caicedo sign. If we would have done more signings like that, because it's an example.
And by the way,
of
we could have signed him for 80 million if we hadn't fucked about for weeks and weeks.
It's an example of a player who's best in class in his position, proven to do what he does, and still fits into the model. So you're perfectly right. If we'd have just done that, we might have spent a little bit more money and had less players on the books. But now that we've found we've had too many players, we'd have to ship them off anyway.
Do you know what they could have done? An example of a transfer. They could have tested. I'm not saying you get him. He probably doesn't want to leave the club he's at. He's still playing. The moment Mbappe went to Real Madrid, I'm asking, I'm going to Rodrigo and going, what do you want? What do you want? How much to Real Madrid? How much do you want? Like, that's a guy you could have potentially got, because he's a guy whose position could have been taken. But nah, well, let's go and get, like,
do you know what's mad as well,
George,
right?
Or not George, but whoever.
You hear about, like, you know, the Athletic and stuff saying that, you know, the priority positions this summer are striker and winger. How can a winger still be a priority? I get it that Madrid, you don't know what's going to happen with him, but you spent £62 million on Madrid. You spent 30 odd million quid on Madueke. You spent 50 odd million on Neto. You spent £25 million on Sancho. You know, other wingers have come and gone. And Nkunku and Felix can both play wide. You're looking at best part of 260 million quid spent on wingers. How is a winger still a priority position? It is unbelievable.
Speaking of wingers, we just come out of a January window where you had a guy who fits the age bill, has performed at a high level, won titles, isn't on that much money, went for a reasonable fee, and you let him go to PSG here you go, have Kvaratskhelia. Just have him. Don't inquire, don't do nothing, have him. And then you could have gone, okay, he's gone there, so we've been interested in Barcola before and he's having a good season, let's go and get him. No, just keep him. Just keep him. Like,
I think it's just a lack of. I'm not saying you're going to get these players.
Yeah, but inquire.
I feel like we do inquire, but if they don't fit into the wage bracket, like we were linked with Kobe Mainoo, but apparently he wants 200 grand. It's never going to happen.
You can't tell me Barcola's going to want like 200 grand. Like,
I don't know. I don't even know what he's on at the moment. But you know, you're looking at clubs like PSG that you've got to compete with financially.
Wages. We're not.
We can't do it. We won't do it.
Or we can do it. We just choose not to.
Yeah, we won't.
But the thing is, I think Kvarat's on like 250, which like I'll pay like. At some point,
it's not going to happen.
I know it's not going to happen.
But I think at some point,
at some point, this has to give.
It won't. Not with Clearlake. It will only give if he relinquishes. If they relinquish power.
We need
Bowley takes the front seat again.
We need Todd Bowley to buy out Clearlake, but that's going to be very, very difficult.
I just want to go back to what you said on the player trading, because that's an interesting point. Player trading and this idea of like you buy a player, we buy a player for the same price or similar price to help each other out. That only ever happens in 2 places. Barcelona, because they're broke, and Serie A, because they're broke. That's the only place I've ever seen it happen on a regular occurrence, because they're both broke. We're not broke, and if we are, it's because you've wasted hundreds of millions of pounds on shit players.
Yeah, Roman wiped out that £1.5 billion debt. We've now invested £1.5 billion, and we've got a dog shit squad.
Do you know what that £1.5 billion? And this is a conspiracy, but I'm honestly tempted to believe it. If I'm totally honest with you, is that the reason they spent that money so quickly is that once you've spent that money, you are then entitled to claim profit. You are then entitled to make money on the club.
I've seen something else as well, and I don't know how much I've been...
do you know what? I don't even think it's a bad shout, if I'm totally honest.
I
Why else would you spend so much money in such a short space of time if you weren't just trying to get it done? And then look at what we're spending now, because now we're in the situation where they've got to dip into their own pockets. But what I would say is, right,
that spending that we did in the first few windows, we were never going to spend at that rate.
No.
For a sustained period of time. That was never going to be
because we had so much turnover we needed to do.
That was never going to be the case. But now, obviously, we're seemingly going from that kind of investment And now it just looks like all we're interested in are opportunities in the market. Now, I'm not saying that Chelsea need to go out and spend £100 million on a player like every summer or every window. No, we don't. But everything in the transfer market now, what do we constantly hear? All we ever hear is opportunities, opportunities, opportunities. And don't get me wrong, every now and then it's fine to snap up a great opportunity in the market potentially. But when all your business is based on opportunities, you were just basically doing your transfer signings on red or black. That's what you're doing. Like, you don't really, like, it might work, it might not work. We don't really care. Opportunities are okay, but when your entire premise of your transfer business is based on opportunities, then you are never ever building a successful squad.
And on the transfers, we're doing it on this bullshit data approach, which, just to show you how infallible that is, Robert Sanchez, I looked this up the other day. Robert Sanchez is in the top 1%, I think, or the top 7% of all keepers for crosses claimed. He's in the bottom 6% for crosses faced. So it's like, yeah, he claims like 1 out of every 2 crosses he faces, because he only faces 2 and claims 1. So he's obviously going to have a good cross. It's just bullshit. It's just nonsense.
It's where stats can be so misleading. Like, don't get me wrong, stats are great, by the way, but you can cherry pick stats to suit any argument you're trying to put across. Reality is, right, stats are important and they're a massive part of football, but the eye tests don't lie either. Like, you can bring me whatever data you want. No data is convincing me that Robert Sanchez is a good goalkeeper. No data will convince me that a lot of these players that aren't good enough to play for us are actually good.
I think that even if we don't finish in the top 4, and
we have to hope that top 5 gets Champions League.
Well, even if we don't finish in the Champions League, I don't think Maresca will be sacked. I don't think he will be. I think that he's going to hang around. I really believe that he's going to be here for a number of years.
I wouldn't be surprised
but
if he walked.
I've totally lost patience. No, he won't walk. He won't walk. He's being walked. He's got a leash. He's a dog right now. The dogs say speak and he barks. That's what happens.
I genuinely...
The truth is, when you hear the stuff that he said in the press conference, he's completely...
No one believes that. No one believes that.
He is not...
He doesn't believe it himself.
I'm not saying that anyone should be on the side of the fans, because... Look, what Poch did last season, you're going to lose your job because of that. So I'm not going out and saying that you should kick up a fuss. But when we look at Maresca's track record on Leicester, and it's quite refreshing when he first came in as well, he's blunt, he's been very honest. And I think over the past month or so, that's really changed. And now we're seeing a guy who is basically saying whatever needs to be said, just to quiff at whatever the argument is that the fans have got. The underlying problems are getting worse. They are getting bigger. And as long as Maresca's the solution to this and almost the middleman, we can look at it as fans and we can say,
as a shield.
Yeah, you know what, fair enough. You're working with this, like, we appreciate you're the manager. There's nothing you can do. But he is just deflecting everything from the club, which is putting more pressure on himself because people know he's full of shit.
I think Poch did the same, and I think you're right. I think so much of this does come from above, because this is the 3rd different manager who said the same things, and it's from a different, like, none of our managers are the same background, have the same play style, have the same expectations, have the same experience. And none of them are the same, but they're all saying the same things eventually. They eventually start saying the same things. So that's a pattern to me. That's not normal. That's coming from somewhere else. Whether it's the target nonsense that he said or the stuff he said yesterday. I'm trying not to get annoyed at his comments because so much he says.
He's just being told to say it.
Yeah, so much of what he says is just nonsense now. It's
is it what you have to say, or is it what you can't say?
I think it's that. I think it's a little bit of both.
I look at it, right. Managers have to come out and speak all the time. Pre-game, post-game, sometimes 2. You might do 4 press. If you've got 2 games a week, you might do 4 press conferences, right? That plus loads of other media shit they have to do. Why is it, right, that the manager is seemingly the only person that fronts up for the football club? Why is there nothing? You hear nothing from the sporting directors. Absolutely zero. They've done one big interview. Was it last summer or the summer before?
The summer they hired
Poch. Yeah, the summer they hired Poch. They did one in-depth interview, I think, with the Telegraph or something. These guys don't speak to anyone. They don't front up to anyone. How is that okay? Why is it always the manager that has to be the spokesperson for the football club? Why do we hear next to nothing from the ownership? Why do we hear absolutely nothing from the sporting directors? We're 5 windows in now. Instead of asking Maresca, why don't we have a striker? Why don't we have that? The sporting directors should be sitting there and answering these questions, because the sole responsibility of that falls on them. So why time and time again can they just do this bullshit and then just crack on in the background, out of the spotlight, like nothing's happened? Why is it always the manager that has to face up to this? Sporting directors should be doing not a press conference every week, but after each transfer window, they should be coming out and answering questions about the window. Why does that not happen?
I kind of agree with you, but at the same time, I don't care what they have to say because they're just going to give me bullshit. They're just going to give me PR business bullshit.
They should at least be doing it.
Like, they're going to give me stuff I don't care to hear. You're going to give me excuses, and you're going to do the same nonsense you always do.
A little bit of context would be nice, just to understand why you're doing what you're doing. And if they are giving you bullshit, then it justifies, well, we were right all along, or maybe there's something that we don't know.
What's happening now is that the club are just treating us like utter idiots. Like when you see the stuff that comes out right in the media, and what comes out in the media is the side that the club want you to hear. Anything in the media is what the club want you to hear. So you never get the proper story or the full truth, because all that comes out is what they want you to have come out. Okay, and they're taking us for absolute idiots. Do they honestly expect us to believe that the manager's happy with the transfer window? Do they honestly expect us to believe that Maresca wanted Felix when he obviously didn't? Do they honestly expect us to believe all these things that they're trotting out? They're trotting out utter bullshit week after week after week, and they're treating us like idiots and expect us to believe it. And the worst thing is, there are some sections of the fan base that just lap it up as gospel. It is complete and utter embarrassment, and they're treating us like utter mugs.
I'm so tired of the PR as well. Like, the moment we lose against City, and the first thing I read when I wake up the next morning is a tweet from Fabrizio about some fucking transfer for, I don't know if this was the Mugu thing or something else. We're looking for a winger still, some fucking nonsense. That's the first thing I read when I wake up after we lose to City.
You notice when you lose a game, you go for you notice when you lose a game where you go for a difficult spell, the very next morning, there's something transfer related, or there's just something they try and put a positive spin on things. Like, people would have a lot more faith and goodwill in the club if they just cut the BS and just come out and were honest.
Well, we used to be involved in a lot of PR, but we used to do a lot as well, which gave me some sort of hope, because I was like, at least we're being active. We're actively trying to solve whatever the problem is. Now we're actively running these social media accounts. I'm sure the admins are very busy, but not a lot is actually happening. It's
well, this is what I'm saying. It's like, and I'm not getting it for Fabrizio because this is his job. It's what he needs. It's how he gets his money. But this is like, it's just what we do in Windows. It's just a tweet from Fabrizio every fucking day or every other day, and it's like, it's the same nonsense. It's we went in the space of 30 days of a transfer window. We went from we're not looking at anyone, we plan for a quiet window, to we're looking at a winger, to we're looking at a midfielder, we're looking at striker options. We looked at every position pretty much in a window.
With 49 players. Father actually kept track of all of them. 49 players.
And I say, how do you go from at the start of the window, we don't plan for a busy window? This wasn't a month before. I'm talking, there was a report that came out at the start of the window saying we don't plan for a busy window. 2 weeks later, I think it was, we've looked at 4 different positions. Sorry? Huh? Pardon?
I get the centre back one because the injuries changed that, but like, but again, like obviously, we're talking about midfield depth.
It's not too early for a vodka.
We're talking about midfield depth, right? And like, how can it be, right, when the priorities in the window, right, where a striker was the main priority and some midfield depth? How have you got to a situation, right, where on the last day of the window, you're not getting a striker, you're scrambling around to sign a midfield player who you didn't need to sign, you actively refuse to recall one of 2 options that would have made a difference, and then the one player you did sign, you haven't even signed him for us. You've signed him to replace Andre Santos at Strasbourg next season. And the gaffer's coming out and saying, oh, yeah, don't expect this guy to play that much. He's just here to sort of learn the style.
He basically said, you're not good enough.
Oh, basically, what makes the window worse, we've got the Club World Cup at the end of the season. It starts the day before the window opens. I don't know how the registration works because we're not privy to that right now. If the registration works like any other competition, once you're registered, you can't replace players. We don't have a pre-season pretty much. That is our pre-season.
There is no pre-season.
So what happens when we sign players in that window that have to integrate with the squad properly? They have 2 weeks to do it, and the window, and then the season then starts.
I don't think we're going to go that far in a Club World Cup as things stand.
We're lucky we have an easy group, otherwise we get grouped.
Yeah, we've got.
But I said this. Don't act like it's easy.
Oh no, it's
been
not.
In this
Can
situation
you imagine,
before?
by the way? I said this.
Mate, we're playing a Mexican team and
but you
a Moroccan team
and a Brazilian team. Do you not remember
team.
after we won the Champions League with Di Matteo, the
sure.
Club World Cup?
No, but we're playing worse teams now, and we'll get through the group. But
I'm sure we will. I'm sure you can
I would
understand my
back right now.
pessimism as well.
If we were to play a Botafogo, a Palmeiras, and Al
Yes.
Hilal, if we play Al Hilal, we play Koulibaly again. Can you imagine if he puts our attackers in a split?
No joke, right? If we
Al
played-
Hilal will beat us.
If we played Al Hilal next weekend, they'd do us.
Mitrovic would score against us.
We were playing.
Oh, Mitrovic against our centre backs.
If we were playing Al Hilal on Friday instead of Brighton, we'd lose. We legitimately would lose.
Oh, just
But do you know what's mad? Like, you look at it now, and look, by the way, all of us would have said in February, if we were 2 points clear in fourth, we would have all taken it. And so, I don't understand how we are fourth right now. I actually don't get it.
We might not be. We play Brighton again away.
We might not be, but right now, it's incredible how we're actually fourth. And part of it's down to the very good start we had, but the main part of it is that everyone else has been so inconsistent. If there was just a touch more consistency from a City or a Newcastle or whatever, we're 4, 5, 6 points off that top four.
If Villa beat Wolves, which they probably could have done, and then win their next 2 games, they'd be above us. Like if they beat, they've got Ipswich at the weekend.
Well,
in the league.
they've actually taken steps forward.
Well, I was saying,
Yeah,
they are facing Ipswich. They are going to win that game, I think. They then face us at home. They are at home. I think they win that game. They're level on points with us.
But the next 2 weeks are massive, right? Because things could get very, very bad. Like last night, mate. We were both there. Like, it was pretty toxic in the away end at times. It wasn't good. But the next 2 games though, right? We've got Brighton away on Friday, and then the next game is Villa away.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, right? Sitting here right now, I don't see how we get. All I'm seeing from that is at best 1 point.
I don't even think it. I think we're past the point of it being toxic. I think people are drained. Our alcohol consumption in Potter's season at Chelsea were the number 1 out of all clubs in England, if I was not wrong. I think that number is probably going to continue because people want to watch Chelsea. They want to enjoy it. You can't enjoy it. I for one, if you're a match-going fan and you don't drink, Charlie, you don't drink.
Not much.
How the fuck do you watch Chelsea every week?
Mate, I was sat next to
absolutely hammered.
I was sat next to,
because if you don't, then it's just it's depressing. You're banging your head against the wall.
I was sat next to Reg last night, right?
Oh, Reggie, yeah.
Yeah, and I was saying to him, it's like, mate, I don't know about you, these last 2 games, I've been so bored.
Shit,
mate. West Ham Monday night, I was like, I could have fell asleep in the first half. This game last night as well, I'm just standing there chatting to Richard, just like, mate, is it me? But
no, it's not.
Like these games, like the last couple of games, I've been so bored watching the games.
I think the atmosphere is a big part of that as well, though. And this also, I mean, it's a long conversation. We've only got a minute. I'll touch on your point in a second. But then you look at the ticketing situation as well. You've got a lot of people that probably aren't even big Chelsea fans.
On tickets, by the way, just very quickly, I want to give a quick shout out to Brighton for pricing that at £25 last night. That was very. That was fair of him, you know, and the right thing to do. When you see Man United charging Leicester fans 50, 60 quid for an FA Cup,
that what they
yeah.
did?
When you see an FA Cup away game, so I just want to say, you know, fair play to Brighton on that, because they could have charged more than that, and 25 quid for the FA Cup is absolutely fair, considering, right, we charged £34 fucking pounds on Morecambe in the previous round.
Yeah, well, I guess they've taken enough money from us. Yeah. So
it's not, on your point though, it's not just the match-going fans, because I don't go to matches that often. I was watching the game at home yesterday with some other people in a Discord stream. Honestly, there was one guy decided to start playing, started playing his PlayStation at that point. I nearly debated it. I was like, I might just play Call of Duty. I might just not have this in the background. Like this, it was that boring.
But it's
we just started going and doing other
boring.
things because it's like, why am I watching this? Like, why am I watching this?
Like, I'm normally
we put on so I think there was like 3 minutes left of the Madrid derby at the end of the game. That last 3 minutes was more enjoyable to me than watching 90 minutes of Chelsea. It was that bad.
But this is true right now.
It was that bad. I was like, why?
But it's true though, isn't it? Like, I look at it like I'm normally fully focused on games when I'm there. Mate, last 2 games, mate, my attention has not really been there. I've just been so disengaged. It's so boring to watch.
Listen, we've got to wrap it up, guys. Our time's up. We could have gone on for hours, but listen, big up for watching. We usually go over tactics, but fucking hell, it's a bit of a podcast today. Yeah, subscribe to the channel, like the video as well, and let us know what you think in the comments. Charlie's channel is going to be in the description as well. And if you're watching the day after, literally, then there will be a live show at 8 o'clock as well. Some people watch it the next day.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.